increasing logistics efficiency. Joining us today to speak about that, Chris Cassidy, Executive Vice President, Global Sales and Strategic Partnerships at Trax Technologies. Chris, good to see you. Welcome.
Russell, thanks for having me.
Chris, let's talk about the ways that, in your view, shippers can optimize cost to serve from a financial flow standpoint or perspective. What would you say?
I would say, wow, what a time in our world, you know, from the pandemic to ocean shipment issues across the Suez Canal, air flight capacity issues. Never in my 25 years in this space did I think that logistics and transportation would have a forefront of conversation at every C-suite's board meeting, and here we are.
You know, as long as you say that, let me just say, never in my 30 years in this business did I think that just the common person on the street would be familiar with the words supply chain.
Right.
But with all of the disruption, you know, which they of course witnessed because the store shelves are empty, it's like now they know about it. Now they have some idea of how it works and its importance. Anyway, go ahead, sir.
So that's right. So, you know, terms like COGS we're all familiar with, you know, the cost of goods manufactured. But there's this new thing the past 10 to 20 years called cost to serve. And getting visibility to that cost to serve is absolutely important and critical to how we drive our overall levels of inventory, how we think about keeping those goods and services on the shelves at the right time, the right place when needed. And, you know, so from a industry perspective, there's a few things that you can do to start creating value for your enterprise.
Well, walk us through some of those things.
You know, first and foremost, you've got to get your arms around visibility of the shipments. And so everyone talks about the physical flow of goods from raw material through manufacturing, through distribution, into end market, and ultimately down to the store shelves and the consumption, the retailer, the consumer. But there's also the financials of that. How are you moving it? What mode of transportation? Where are you storing it? And so from that perspective, cost to serve is becoming one of the largest buckets of expenses for enterprise shippers today. We've all seen the forecast of what we've been budgeting go through the roof. Ocean containers are 10x what they were just 2 to 3 years ago. Air freight capacity, trying to keep that capacity. We have a truck driver shortage in America, not much less across Europe and Asia. And so how we think about creating value is absolutely critical. And so some of the things that you can start with within your enterprise is to just gain visibility of all your carrier contracts. Start to look at those and say, how am I tracking that financial flow in parallel to that physical flow? There's companies out there that talk about real-time visibility. Well, there's also platforms and companies that talk about visibility of the financial flow. And so you think about normalizing that data, matching those addresses, thinking about how you take that cost to serve and optimize it from a value perspective. And it starts with data quality, and ultimately getting visibility to make smarter decisions.
That is valuable information for sure. Chris, let's talk about other trends that you see that are out there that people are learning about, that people are actually doing to optimize the efficiency, to boost the efficiency in their logistics operations. What's going on?
You know, I try to teach some of the people that I mentor and talk to around what I call the 3 S's. And when I think about optimization, you can look at it in several different ways. But if you look at it from a spend perspective, that's your cost. What are you doing with that cost? The trade-offs in that cost versus cash. How much inventory are you holding? How much safety stock? Versus how you're moving that good. Should it go by air or ocean? So thinking about it from a spend perspective is one of the S's. The second S is speed. What is the agility and velocity of that shipment? When do I need it? How do I keep out of stock or on time and full? So the second S of optimizing is the speed. And you hear a lot in the industry about agility, flexibility, resiliency. A lot of terms are being thrown around there, but it's really all around how you optimize that spend to the speed and velocity of that shipment. And that leads us really to the third bucket, which is really what is the sustainability or the social economics of that. So when I think about optimization, I put people, process, and systems of that cost to serve or of the logistics and transportation into what is the cost trade-off or the spend, what is the speed, the flexibility, agility, and responsiveness that I need, and ultimately, what's the social economics or the responsibility, things like sustainability that I have for that.
That's a great drill down right there. Here's something I know is of concern for some folks. The SEC has proposed a climate-related disclosure rule. Has to go on registration statements. Now, a number of folks I'm sure are not entirely aware of this, don't quite understand it, so walk us through that. What's that all about?
You know, I look back to early in my career when we started talking about things like track and trace, right? E-pedigree, serializing the product itself. Well, now that we have that, economies and shippers are starting to think about how we move in this global economy on all these ocean containers, all these shipment containers. And then you start looking at greenhouse impacts, right? What are the impacts? Well, we know that transportation specifically is about 42% of that impact on CO2 and emissions. And so from a social economic impact, corporations as part of their EHS and their 10Ks and their reporting are being challenged to say, how are you, Mr. Enterprise, how are you, large corporations, what's your role in this? And so at Trax Technologies, in fact, part of what we do with freight audit and payment, we call transportation spend management. We think about how we drive value, and one of those ways is through measuring, now that we have the invoice and now that we have that visibility of that spend of those transportation invoices, how we can start to calculate the CO2 emissions, how we can start to think about driving the carriers' behaviors to invest in more economical and smarter technology. I mean, we're here at this MODEX 2022, and it's all around robotics and automation and efficiencies, how to use technology to drive greater impacts on our society. And I think what we're doing here at Trax to build a CO2 sustainability product to measure and help you drive efficiencies is going to go so far in driving smarter decisions and insights that we talked about earlier at the enterprise level.
That's actually a very, very valuable offering that you're talking about right there. Let's talk more specifically now about Trax Technologies. Tell us briefly about how you are optimizing the operations of your customer base. What do you say?
Yeah, so at Trax, we start with a three-layered approach. You know, we call it table stakes. The freight audit and payment is the foundation of what we do, right? This industry's been around for 50 years. We at Trax have been around about 30 years. But in the past, really 5 to 10 years, we've coined a phrase called transportation spend management. We believe that measuring and aligning the real-time physical flow with the financial flow and combining that data set and putting that into a data lake can drive greater intelligence to make smarter decisions. Yes, we want to freight audit those invoices to make sure that we have accurate billing between the carrier and the shipper, but that's really the step one of the foundation. Step two is where we start driving performance and efficiencies. Things like, how are you forecasting your spend? How are you looking at your budgets? How are you selecting those carriers? We have a product called Rate Manager, which is best in class in the industry. We've developed with some of the largest global companies. And then third and foremost, once you have that performance and efficiency, our tier 3 layer is our consultancy and advisory services, where we're really going in and helping you look at your products and your technology now that we have that data quality and that spend married up to your transportation shipments. We start to say, how can we optimize that? And at Trax, we believe we can give you 10x value and help you drive at the VP and Chief Supply Chain Officer level, smarter decision making in your overall transportation spend for your enterprise.
Managing transportation spend, that's valuable information there. Listen, Chris, I know that you are busy here at the conference, but you found time to speak with us. Thank you so very much.
Thank you, Russell, for having me.
It's Chris Cassidy, Trax Technologies, speaking with us today about managing your transportation spend, speaking to us about efficiencies in your logistics operation. Thanks for watching.